bad. I'm going. Merge one was bad.
Yes. Oh, boy, Rob, you got everything hooked up here. You started everything here.
Huh?
Never mind. Never mind. We're good.
Okay, by the way, we are live now already, so if you go to our PANJTV.com, you can see the feed.
What is it? PA?
PANJTV.com.
Okay.
And if you want to copy the link and share it,
Oh.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Well, you do it because I shut my phone off. I didn't realize that. Because I'm so right-brained.
and the audio, everything you say is going out there.
And you'll share it on my wall?
I will try to, if I can figure it
The
out.
audio feed is out there, so we're checking out.
Let me see. Let me see.
Okay, we've got another minute or so.
Oh, good. Then I'll try and do it.
I like the screen going early, just because
Yep.
everything's going good.
That's what we try to do as well because sometimes it gets screwed up.
All right. I'm going to kill the mics for a second, all right,
Yes.
guys? It is 5 o'clock. It is not Tuesday. It's not 6 o'clock. We've been all over the place here, but this is in the green room, regardless of what time or what day. And we got a really good show today. Good show, a lot of information, and a lot of up stuff to keep us aware of where we're going and what we got to do. And we got Rob over here on the video engineering, and my guest today, our returning guest and contributor,
Hey,
Geri
guys.
Petito.
Hey, everybody. Love it here.
And to her left, as you can see on the video, we are on PANJ TV today. So if you want to see us on YouTube, that's where you go. Our guest, Stephen Kavalkovich.
You got it. Absolutely. Pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Wow, you did it.
So happy.
Said it
That
took
was
me
a tough one. You had to do gold yesterday. That was easy.
That was good.
took me like, a long time. It's no problem.
How you guys doing?
Great to
Yeah,
be here.
It's good to see you guys. I'm glad were able to get this going. And well, let me. Well, Geri has her own show on Hamilton Radio. 2 shows.
Yep.
The Geri Petito Show, and then the one with the women. I don't know what the name of that show
Yes,
is.
Girl Power.
Girl Power.
That's on Thursdays.
And how's that going?
That's going really well. Again, I mean, I've said this before. We don't bash men. We do our best to empower women.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. That's a good way to come about it.
Yes.
Because a lot of women shy away from that when they see women bashing men all the time, and I guess a lot of men too. But
No, you're right.
You're
You're right.
But that's cool. What's on your show? Give us a little
Well,
insight.
Unfortunately, we have a lot of shows for abused women to bring awareness, to help women. We help them get into safe places. Children that are abused, animals. I mean, we just try to bring awareness to things that people already know that are going on out there, but we also try to help them get help, to empower them to get help.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's girl power.
Girl power.
That's right.
Yeah, power to the women. And our guest here is first responders, substance abuse, and PTSD support.
Yeah, so
Period. Doc.
yeah, so I have my own. I also have my own show. It's hosted on the Mental Health News Radio Network, and we're available on multiple different platforms. The show is called Rescue the Rescuer, and I titled that because it's a show geared and designed towards first responders and anybody in the helping professions, whether that be a military personnel, doctor, nurse, teacher, social worker, just anybody who's in the profession and the calling to help people. Those people are people too, and regardless of their uniform or their credentials, there's still a human underneath all of that. And
Absolutely.
I started it because there wasn't any other show that I could find anywhere on the planet that was geared towards that. Those people who deal and battle with mental illness, substance abuse disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, relationship failure, et cetera, et cetera. That came out of my own experience, and I'm sure we'll get into that. So that's why I started it, and so far we've been up for a little bit over a month now, and been getting a lot of wonderful feedback from around the world. 90% of it's positive. I'd say 10% of it is negative, and the negative only makes me turn the volume up louder.
Awesome.
That's my attitude.
That's where it goes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much that's who I am. That's what I do in the elevator pitch, I guess you would call it.
And how did this start for you? When did these inspirations to do this?
Well, I was a first responder. I was a paramedic for I guess about 15 years. And it came out of when I battled with my own stuff. I battled with stuff that had nothing to do with the job. It started with stuff that happened when I was a kid, abusive things and, just feelings of my own inadequacy and my own lack of self-esteem and self-worth. So combining that and then getting into a field where I felt that I was important because
Absolutely.
I was,
Sure.
responding to emergencies and I felt like I was somebody.
Absolutely.
But being exposed to trauma, death and dying every single day, combined with my own personal issues that I was hiding underneath, was a real perfect storm. And then I went to Ground Zero 9/11. It was a attempt at, I say I was a rescue worker. Unfortunately, there was nobody to rescue by the time I got there because it was hours after the towers had fallen. So there really wasn't anybody to rescue at the time. But one thing, and I share this all the time, and I'll share it here too, that told me that, again, regardless of what you do for a living, coping mechanisms generally tend to be the same amongst all humans. And the night that it was, I would say about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I think on 9/11, we were taking a boat from Jersey City into Manhattan. There's about 100 of us, all dressed out in turnout gear, firefighters, cops, paramedics, anybody who was there to help.
Right.
And there was a ton of alcohol on that boat. And I could tell you that everybody that was on that boat was getting wasted on the way
Really?
there.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you know, from the outside in, looking at that, some people could judge and say, well, you know, these people were entrusted to be professionals, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but what they were going to see.
Exactly. You know, the element of fear, the unknowing, all those things bubbling up, and then there's that coping mechanism, you know. And I'm not saying drinking's bad necessarily. I'm just saying that it's a really interesting portrayal and picture of the fact that we're all, you know, we all cope in pretty much the same ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went over there, spent some time in New York, you know, looking for people to help, and there was nobody. And that's one of the first times I really actually felt powerless in my
Now,
life.
when you said there was no one to help, how did that work out?
Well, by that time, either anybody that was injured was probably already at the hospital or evacuated, or they were already dead. I mean, it was generally one or the other. And we waited and waited at certain triage stations, but there was just nobody coming. So it was the first time I really felt powerlessness in my life that I never really recognized. You know, I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I just felt like we all showed up to do something and we are completely powerless because there's nobody to help. And it was something that I internalized. It really affected me very deeply. And unfortunately, I actually used that. I used 9/11, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but I used that as an excuse to destroy myself for the next 12 years or so.
Wow.
Working as a medic, drinking, going to the bar in the morning after my shift at 7 a.m., which was a very common practice as well. A lot of night shift workers, there's a lot of bars.
Right. They just hit it before they go home, yeah.
Exactly. It's very common. And, you know, eventually for me, it turned from drinking to marijuana to painkillers and benzos like Xanax. And, you know, also into other maladaptive behaviors like gambling, adultery.
Really?
You name it. You know, I tried everything to try to find a sense of peace anywhere outside of myself.
That's very, very true. That's what you were trying to do, you know. And I think that's what everybody tries to do in their life. And like you said, there's different ways about it that people go. And sometimes they're really the same outcome that we want is peace, is some kind of acknowledgement of just being at rest with ourselves, knowing who we are. And those terms outside just don't get us there. They're just kind of
temporary
this way
fixes,
and that
yeah.
way. Yeah, temporary fixes.
I mean, I've shared this with Geri before, that I kind of liken it to the idea of trying to fill a God-shaped hole with man-made things.
Right.
Because I tried it with everything. You know, I'd switch jobs, I'd get a new car, I'd buy a new watch, get a new girlfriend, even though I was married. You know, buy a new this or a that, or, you know, fill a house full of stuff, but be miserable. And eventually, like I said, I started using painkillers. I started using opiates. And I want to actually backtrack, because I was sharing this with a gentleman out in the hallway before we started. When I was in paramedic school in 2000, it was in Philadelphia. It was a few months before 9/11. I'll never forget, I was in my hospital internship time at Jefferson Hospital, 10th floor, and about lunchtime, Purdue Pharmaceuticals came in with a large array of food for us, and they gave the lecture about OxyContin for the first time. And they said, this is going to be a miracle drug. It's going to help everybody.
Oh,
and
boy.
17 years
boy.
later, look at the news. Look at where we sit, you know.
That is incredible.
Yes, I remember sitting in that meeting, and little did I know that I would be directly affected by it, not just by the job, because I'd be going on overdose calls left and right eventually. But came to a point where I started using the same type of pills. And stealing them from patients' houses.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not proud of that.
I want to say
That's
something.
amazing.
Sure. When I met Stephen through a mutual friend. She's also a first responder. She's been my friend for years and years, and got in touch with me and said, you have to meet Stephen. He's an amazing guy, and tells me his story. I never even thought that stuff went on. And I thought I knew a lot. Like, I really honestly, when they were telling me these things, I was in awe. Because our brain is not supposed to think that this person that we called 911 is coming to save our lives has these issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, there's a certain degree of trust that gets attached immediately when you call 911 to
Right.
whoever shows up, because there's
Someone's going to do the right thing.
yeah, and I'm not saying that
You probably did the right thing.
Yeah.
clinically, you know,
Yeah.
I knew my job and I
Right.
treated patients
Right.
fairly, and I never did anything, you know, directly reckless to hurt anybody.
Right.
But eventually there came a point where, yes, I would go into people's houses in their bathroom cabinets, and I'd be checking their pills and swiping a
crazy.
couple this or that.
Hey, lady, you're not supposed to have this.
You know?
I mean, yeah, it got to that point, and you know, I started losing jobs. Obviously, I started losing more relationships in my life. I started losing. I went bankrupt because I was blowing my money, not just on drugs, but on everything,
Right,
and not paying
right.
my bills, and just complete disaster. Going into different rehabs a couple times here and there, and eventually it turned into heroin, which is, people say, oh, well, didn't you know better? Well, of course I knew better.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's not about knowing better.
No, it's about feeling something.
It's about,
Or
for me,
feeling nothing. I don't know.
it's
either way.
about trying to numb or trying to hide. There's guilt and shame that I didn't want to feel, that I was afraid to face.
Right.
And combine that with the fact that it became a financial decision. Heroin was a financial decision for me because a pill on the street was $30 versus a bag was $8.
Right. Well, that's the situation today.
That's where we sit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
eventually, from making that decision,
Right.
I got divorced. The divorce happened prior to that, but I wound up overdosing in my parents' house, and the medics that showed up that gave me the Narcan, which is the opiate reversal drug, were partners that I used to work with.
Right.
So I mean,
right,
you want
right.
to talk about a humbling experience?
Yeah.
Waking up to looking at people that you used to be doing this, you know, sitting with them as opposed to sitting on the opposite side with them, from them, and that's where it happened. That's what happened. And part of why I started the show was because I really felt like I suffered in a lot of silence. I suffered silently with my struggle.
Right.
Because I worked in a field where there's this idea that you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to suck it up, and take it, and if you can't take it, get out of the field or whatever. And you're not supposed to be weak, because talking about your feelings somehow is misconstrued as being weak, when in reality it's actually one of the strongest things you can do.
So weird, isn't it?
It's a dichotomy. It really is.
Yeah, it's really.
And I just suffered. I suffered in isolation and silence, and I know now that I was not the only one.
Right.
Because out of,
Right,
millions of
right.
first responders around the planet, I couldn't have been the only one doing those things. I know it. So now I found myself to be in a unique position, because the fact that I survived, I'm alive,
Right.
and I look at it as my responsibility to be able to be very open about these things, to open up and give the people the courage to speak up. Now, does that mean they have to come on the radio and talk about this stuff? No.
No.
But it means that they don't have to hide anymore.
Right. They have to have an avenue to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your experience, and that's why you're there, supplying that avenue for people to be able to open up. Because, like you said, people are afraid to open up. People are afraid to open up normally, without drugs.
Right.
It doesn't even matter. But when you have a problem and you feel ashamed of that problem in some sense, you really don't want to talk about it unless there is somebody really close, and you've supplied that somebody. That's great.
Well, like you said, people are afraid, and vulnerability is a scary thing.
Yeah.
I found that it's actually kind of ironic to me that once I actually got honest, like truly, truly honest with everybody about everything that was going on in my life, it's not as scary as it seems. The things that I was hiding and running away from really aren't that scary, and they can't hurt me, and they can't hurt you.
Right.
But they can be the catalyst to help somebody.
Yeah.
And with all the divisiveness we have in this world, and that's a whole other show topic.
Yeah.
With all the divisiveness we have in this world, we need to use our voices. We need to be vulnerable. We need to have, and I'm not saying I deserve a medal, and I don't believe any of us deserve a medal for this. I just know that there's a lot of people dying. I'm sick of seeing it. And if I know of some way of offering some form of solution, then I'm going to do that.
That's right.
Amen, brother.
You know, end of story.
Yeah.
You know, drop the mic, as they say, and walk away after that one, because
And
that's how it is.
You feel capable of doing that now. What gave you the strength? What gave you the realization or whatever to go on?
Well, you know what's interesting is I believe Mark Twain said that there's the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. And I believe that every single one of us was given a gift or a purpose or a gift. And I found mine in using my voice and using my experience, all the experience I went through, childhood, molestation by a youth pastor, all that stuff.
Imagine that.
That I hid and ran away from. If I don't talk about it...
It sounded like there was a lot of guilt hanging out there somewhere in the back.
Of course. Well, that's where it's driven. It's
Right.
it's driven by guilt and shame and self-loathing and all that. But what gave it to me finally, for me, the final tipping point for me, was when my parents, the two people that brought me into this world, that have always supported me, finally said, hey, guess what? We love you. You can't come back here now. You can't come back to our house. Because that was always my safety net. I could always land with mom and dad, even though I was over 30 years old and a father. I was already a father.
Right.
But I always had mom and dad to run to.
Right.
Finally, they got some help, and they recognized that everything they were doing to quote-unquote help me was killing me.
Yeah.
So when they shut the door, I finally said, you're right. I'm completely alone, because the ones that have been here my entire life, from the minute of my creation,
Right.
said no. And that's when I finally started to get better. And I didn't want to lose them. And I have them in my life. I mean, they were always there, but they just drew boundaries. And that's important.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And it saved my life. It saved my life. And my kids, I have my kids in my life.
Right.
I have someone that I've been with for a while, a female that I've been living with, girlfriend together for a while. I work back in the medical field. Who would have thought? The two states took away my paramedic certification. Okay, Pennsylvania took it away because they don't like you driving an ambulance after you shot heroin. Apparently.
Really?
Yeah, it's shocking because I looked at it as field research at the time, but apparently
Sounds like
they
discrimination. I don't know.
I know, right? But the cool part is, in about a month, I got invited to the Pennsylvania Northeast region, I think it's called, EMS conference I got invited there to bring my show there. So these guys are the same office that took my certification, have now invited me back because they recognize the need.
How cool.
Like, how crazy is that?
How cool.
Like, you want to talk about full circle.
No,
Come
that's
on.
great.
Well, you were down pretty low there. And, that was kind of where the only way was up, and either that out.
Yes.
Up or out.
Yeah. Well, if you find yourself in a hole, best to quit digging. And thank God I had the clarity to recognize that the hole was deep enough, and now the dirt was going to start getting piled on top of me because there wasn't going to be no climbing out.
Right.
At that, I'd gotten to that place, and I don't know, guys. I really look at it as my responsibility to do what I do now. And I said it earlier, I think, that I get 90% of the feedback I've gotten for the show has been really positive. And
Now, what did we go through the show, or am I just having a senior moment? What is the show?
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's called Rescue the Rescuer.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's okay.
Take another drink of water.
So it's we're on iTunes.
Do you need the fan on you?
Yeah. Do you need?
I'm all right.
Do you need to lie down?
I'll just take a couple of deep breaths. But every time I find out that I'm right about something,
That's
it's
so
like
funny.
that I didn't forget.
It's an epiphany.
Yes.
Yeah, to me.
But no, so we're on iTunes, we're on Spreaker, we're on iHeartRadio, YouTube, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio. We're on Hamilton Radio now, and we're on some other places, I think. But The really awesome part is I love being a part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. There are a network of shows that are dedicated to mental health, and the CEO of the network, who's become a very close friend, she's family to me. She found me before my show even launched and said, "We want you on here." And you know, it's a blessing to be a part of it. And so I bring on guests every week.
Still waiting for my invite,
Yeah,
but I don't know. Hey,
she's coming. I've just been very backed up with the schedule. But
what's the name of the show again?
it's called Rescue the Rescuer.
Rescue the Rescuers.
And it's like I said, it's not about me. I bring on guests. I had the battalion chief of the Chicago Fire Department on last week, who's also been a mental health counselor and advocate for 25 years or so, and he recognizes the need. And I bring just people on, and we talk about these things. I have a show coming up this week, which I thought was one of the best interviews I did. He's a firefighter in North Jersey. I'm not going to tell you where he works because he wanted to keep that private, but he's a career fireman. And in April of this year, one of their firemen was a 20-year career fireman with their department, wound up stuck in a drug world, and he wound up losing his job because of criminal charges he wound up getting because of his addiction. He got fired after 20 years on the job. 2 weeks later, they get dispatched to his house. He overdosed and died. And the fire department, the administration, said under no circumstances will you guys show up to his funeral in uniform or represent our department because he's a disgrace.
You're kidding.
That's the truth.
There's something ass backwards about this.
there sure is.
Tell me about it.
Are you kidding?
I mean, we're human beings. We have these problems. And there should be some kind of backup. Even with the fire department, they didn't.
I'm in a little bit of shock right now.
I'm going to take that story a step further. 30 days later, a guy on that same fire department was a career guy, same as the other dude.
Yeah.
This guy hadn't been in trouble.
Right.
He was still on the job.
Right.
They get dispatched to his home. He overdosed and died.
Yeah.
They went to his funeral with the full pomp, the full.
Because they realized they were wrong.
No.
No.
No, because he hadn't. Because he hadn't been fired.
He died of natural causes.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing that's even more crazy. This was in April and May of this year.
Okay.
They have still not officially come out and said what these two men died of.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And this gentleman that was on the show is a fireman with them, and he's also a mental health advocate. And he said we need to develop a program. He went to administration. They do not want to hear it. And this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I would think, the fire department, being that they're right in the front lines, fighting for their own life as well as someone else's, and they don't have a backup. They don't have this the PTSD. I would think should be all over the place. I mean, it's good there for servicemen who fight in wars, right?
It's for anybody who's trauma.
Why wouldn't you have it for
That's right.
Somebody who serves the people?
That's right.
Well, the irony is in these fields we will go out and rescue a complete stranger, but we don't take care of ourselves. They talk about brotherhood, but it sounds like more of a punchline at this point.
Right.
Because what is it?
Right. It's political.
Yeah.
It's
like,
got to be political. It's got to be something we can't speak about this. We're people look at us a certain way. They don't look at us as being a human being.
When I lost my job when I lost my career as a medic, right in this area down the road from here in Trenton, I was gone. I was just gone one day. I showed up to work high, lost my job, lost my certification, everything. I was gone. 3 years later, my story got published in a national thing, and I shared it in the New Jersey Paramedics Facebook page. And I had old coworkers come to me, reach out. God, we had no idea. Then I heard the other ones that said, man, a lot of us knew you were going through it, but we didn't know what to do. And it made me sad for both reasons. A, because they didn't know, or B, because they knew and they didn't feel they could do anything.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's actually anything they could have done, but the fact that they didn't feel safe enough, or I don't even know what the word would be, to be able to come and address it, because they didn't want to get involved or whatever. I don't know what I don't know, and I don't hold anything against them by any means, but it just says that we got to change something here. We got to change something, and I know that I keep saying it, but I get like a lot of good feedback. I get a lot of negative feedback which shocked me.
Yeah.
But I have guys that I used to work with.
What kind of negative feedback?
I'll tell you one I told Geri on the way up here. Guy I used to work with, he was a medic with me. Me and this man used to smoke marijuana in the medic unit. I'm not going to lie. I'll tell it. It's the truth.
It's okay.
He called me out on Facebook a few weeks ago and was like, man, your show is BS. You're not going to help anybody. Why don't you just go back and stick a needle in your arm? And now,
wow.
To be honest with you, obviously that hurt. And that would have been something that probably would have made me go stick a needle in my arm back in the past. Today I said, you know what? It sounds like you're dealing with something. I didn't say that to him, but I said, it sounds like you got some real deep hurt. And I'm sorry. And I'm going to turn the microphone volume up louder.
Yeah.
Because obviously this is a story that needs to be told. Not my story, but the story in general about this.
Right.
Because
right.
in EMT school and firefighting school, they talk about personal scene safety, body substance isolation to protect yourself from disease and injury. But there is nothing for mental health fitness for duty. There's nothing mentioned in any curriculum for any of it. And it's like, what are we doing? Why are we not addressing this? What are we afraid of?
Right.
You know, what are we afraid of? Are we afraid of the fact that we're not He-Man? We're not Superman? No, we're not. It's okay to acknowledge it.
That's right.
It's okay to acknowledge it, but we've got guys just recently, maybe right around when I met Geri, when I first went on her show, about 2 months ago or so, a Hamilton firefighter ate a bullet.
Oh, right. My friend witnessed.
Yeah.
He crashed. It was on Nottingham Way.
Nottingham Way.
Shot himself and crashed into, was it an ambulance he crashed into or a big truck?
I don't know if it was a truck or what, but...
Yeah, and it was a friend of...
He killed himself?
No,
Yeah.
you know, it was a friend of my co-host
Yeah.
on Thursday night. It was someone that worked for her dad's stepson who did it. Terrible.
So, I mean, right there, we got to recognize the fact that every single one of us has been human. We pee yellow and we bleed red. We're all human, regardless of what we do for a living or how much money we have.
Right.
At the end of the day, all we really want, I believe this to be so true, we all want to have our own identity and follow who we are, and we want to connect with other people. What's the best way to
Connection.
connect? What's the best way to
Absolutely.
connect with other people? The best way.
Your story.
Communicate.
Your story.
Your story.
Your story.
Yeah.
You're
That's what's up.
sharing in your hardships
That's right.
and your weakness and your troubles. Because strength, when you go to when they have a big a big speaker will come, like say a big professional speaker will come and speak to a group of kids at a school or something. It's cool. It's like a celebrity event.
Right.
But there's a line of there's not connection.
Disconnect. Yeah.
Because that guy's a big celebrity, whatever. But we all experience weakness and hardship. That's where we connect. We connect through the weakness. You know, we divide with the strength sometimes because we all don't have the same strengths.
Yeah.
But we all have the same weaknesses.
Wow.
You know, that's my 45 cents for the day. You know.
No, it's true. You know, it's a place that we're at in this world that we get pushed into corners. You know, people feel that way, that there's no way out. You know, and it's bullshit.
It is bull.
There's plenty of.
There are plenty of ways out.
There, you know, part of it is because society has laid that on everybody. You know, it's always like grabbing higher. If you don't get there, man, you blew it. You know, and it just puts this thing in people that they're no good. You know, I can't do it no more. I'm no good. I don't help him. I can't help anybody. It's not about helping anybody else. It's about helping yourself first, because you can't help anybody if you don't help yourself. And we got to go to that place to find out how to help ourselves, how to get ourselves into that place, and know that there's always a solution. You know, I mean, as a carpenter, I had a carpenter fixing my house once, and I said something about, I messed up that wall, and he says, it can be fixed. Anything can be fixed. You know, it really can be fixed. And we have to believe that it's okay. And you know, the way things are in such isolation That's part of the problem too.
You're right.
Especially with the younger kids now. Everybody's isolated. They don't communicate. It's like it's all about their thing, and if something goes wrong there, you know, it's a big thing. But you know, part of my life is building understanding myself, knowing that I am that I am, and I have to know that I am, and the search for that. And it's a wonderful search because it's nothing but good stuff. Because you know at the end of that road, it is a gold, because who you are is gold.
Right.
And if people understood that that's where it's at, it has nothing to do with this external stuff, you know. And I think we get caught in it, like you said. You know, you go from a joint to a shot of this or a drink of this or whatever. Why are we doing it? To fill that space, to try to get that place where we're satisfied, where we're happy, where we're quiet in the mind, you know, whatever it is. And the only way to get quiet in our mind is to get quiet in our mind, not through external stuff.
That's right. You're absolutely right about
You
that.
know?
There's an irony. There's a great irony that I find in our world. We are so connected today, but it's so false.
Yeah.
We can connect on social media and YouTube and all these places, which are great tools,
Right.
but they don't replace the human connection.
That's right.
They don't.
That's
And I read a story. There's a guy. He's a philosopher named Wendell Berry, and he wrote.
Well,
he,
no, I've heard about it.
he said something about like America, like just Western society. We're the only society that really questions who we are and what our purpose is and all this. Other places don't do that because they're too busy trying to figure out where they're going to eat next. When we have a society of abundance, but we're left in wanting.
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin said it in
That's
The Great
very good,
Dictator in
yeah.
1946. I think that's when the movie came out.
Uh-huh.
Greatest movie speech ever, The Great Dictator. He said that that was 70, 80 years ago. He said we're a society filled with all these things, and it's left us in want. And look at us now. I mean, that was then. Look at where we are today. It's even worse.
Imagine that.
That's right.
You know, and if you don't get what happens when you put that post up on Facebook and you don't get 100 likes? Oh, the self-loathing comes in. Oh, I'm not good.
Oh,
Nobody
yeah.
likes me.
That's my wife.
Yeah, and it's like
Nobody's my friend. Nobody likes my.
But then
It's so incredible.
take the other step, right?
Yeah.
My kids are 9 and 6 years old, and they're obsessed with these stupid YouTube videos. And like, of these guys, like my son will sit there enamored and watch this dude playing a video game.
Yeah.
And these guys are getting 10 million likes or 10 million followers or whatever. And I'm like, this is truly the dumbing down of society, because we're attracted to this mundane nothingness, and it's just, I don't know, man. If this is what we look at today, I don't know what the next 10 years is going to look like if we don't do something.
Yeah, we got to go to a break. So that for the moment. So, but we'll be right back with more of this interesting experience here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hang in there, folks.
Hey, I'm Deirdre Anderson with Delish Catering,
And I'm Laura Mangone from Chambers Walk Cafe and Catering.
and we'd like you to join us on Food for Thought, where what do we talk about, Laura? We talk about restaurants, we talk about
Pet
recipes,
peeves,
pet
food.
peeves, bitchy hostesses,
All sorts of food-related items.
all sorts of
Tune
food
in.
stuff, and sometimes not so much food stuff. We go off on segues, but we have a lot of fun, don't we?
Absolutely.
So join us on Food for Thought.
PANJradio.com, 1 o'clock weekdays.
Hey, this is Danny Coleman, the host of Rock On Radio, and I'm thrilled to be coming to my new home right here on PANJradio.com from Lambertville, New Jersey, where you'll hear the best of indie artists every Sunday night, 7 p.m. I'm excited. You should be too. Rock on.
smiling faces, the sweet embraces.
That's my daughter. I use her song as my...
It's nice.
It's good.
Yeah, she is. Anyway, yeah, so where were we? We're in the middle of getting to know ourselves.
Trying
I
to
think
figure
that's
out the
a big
world's
part.
problems, yeah.
Yeah, a big problem.
Biggest problem we have is ourselves. That's the
Right.
biggest battle we'll ever fight, I think.
And the practical solution is everyone become happy. And that's it.
Well, you know, there's a documentary about that actually. I believe it's on Netflix called Happy, and they went around the world and they tried to find the happiest civilization, the happiest country. They found that Japan has the highest suicide rate because these people work 24 hours a day to chase the dollar, or the yen, if you want to call it that.
We probably taught them. Yes.
And they found that the happiest country was in the Himalayas, called Bhutan, the country of Bhutan. These people don't have running water, they don't have Facebook, they don't have electricity, but they're happy. Why? Because they have very little external stuff, but you know what they do have? They have peace.
That's right.
So wait, hold on, I have a question.
right.
So you're telling me Japan has the highest suicide rate?
It does. Yes.
Yeah, they
Look it up. It does.
I always look at Japanese people as so calm and quiet and right.
Over there, it is.
Well, I'm sure it's like a dichotomy of this and that.
Sure.
You know, people.
You shocked me again, Stephen.
I do that.
Maybe the guys who hang out in the temples are pretty cool, but it's like not of all of Japan. Japan is a city, right? And that's a crazy city as far as I've never been there, but that's what I've heard. It's like New York. What?
I've been to
country.
Japan, and it is like New York, but okay, I was.
Yeah,
wow.
it's very interesting, but they because there's this drive to succeed.
Right.
They have this
Right.
this insane drive to succeed
Right.
that it drives people to insanity because they don't, always seeking to. I mean, it's no different here with this. Oh well, my neighbor got the new Cadillac, so I got to get the newer Cadillac to keep up, and that's BS. Like, no, you don't. You just got to be yourself.
Dick Gregory once said he just passed. I don't know if you knew Dick Gregory, but incredible being and comedian, and also very well activist in the world. And one of the things he said was, he was doing a whole routine, and he said, people tell you, you got to be somebody, grow up and be somebody. And he just said, I was born somebody.
Yeah.
I didn't have to be anybody.
He's
I am
right.
already there.
He's right.
And we just have to be who we are, and learn who. I mean, this is what all the scriptures talk about. All these incredible beings that came to the earth to bring, whether it was Buddha or Krishna or Christ or whoever it was, they wanted to bring that experience of peace.
That's right.
Where do you go for that? And they were saying it's not out here. It's inside of you. No matter what religion you looked at, that I looked at, it's all the same thing.
You're right.
It's inside.
The
Kingdom of heaven is within.
Well, I was about to say the exact thing you just said. Is Luke 17 says the kingdom of heaven is in all man.
Yeah.
Doesn't say white man. Doesn't say black man.
It doesn't.
It says all man.
We better tell some people.
Yeah. And then, I was thinking about this as we've been talking. There's a lyric from a song, and it says, what if my greatest disappointments or the achings of this life is the revealing of a greater thirst the world can't satisfy? Think about that.
Say that again.
What if my greatest disappointments or the achings of this life is the revealing of a greater thirst this world can't satisfy? So it's all those things, all the trials that we go through, we think is our world's coming to an end, when in reality, the trials are bringing us closer to our true selves.
Right.
And the world can't satisfy that. No matter how much money. I think about a couple of these famous musicians who just recently committed suicide. And I was talking to a guy just after Chris Cornell from Soundgarden passed away a few months ago, and that night I was with somebody who was in the music industry, and I said, what makes a guy like that do it? He goes, well, when you get to a level like that, and you're famous, you have the money, you have all these things, and you realize that it's not all that. Where do you go from there?
Right.
And I said, a guy like Robin Williams, a guy like some of these people had all of this. We look at them and say they had it all. Well, you know what they didn't have? They didn't have peace, obviously.
Right, they struggled.
Because people with peace don't kill themselves.
They had to be struggling mentally.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part, that they had so much money and so much fame and power that people couldn't just grab them by the arm and say, I want to help you. That's the sad part.
Right.
They felt alone.
You know?
In the end, they were alone.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and all the stuff they had didn't buy them that connection.
That peace.
Whatever that was for them. And it's tragic. And I obviously can't sit here and proclaim to know exactly what was going through their head the minute that happened.
No, of course not.
But we can pretty much make a good
Summation.
assume on that. And that's why it doesn't matter whether you're in, Park Avenue or the park bench. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
If you don't have peace, you're going to wind up doing everything you can to find it, seeking it everywhere else except for the one place. I heard a story. It was actually, I believe, in the AA Big Book. And that story's not in there, but the idea is there.
Okay.
It said that when they created the world, and they said, where we're going to put the crown of life, where we're going to put peace. Well, they said, why don't we put it on the mountaintop? No, we won't put it there because man will find it there. Why don't we put it in the bottom of the ocean? Nah, he'll probably find it there too. Why don't we put it inside of himself? Because man will never look there.
Absolutely right.
Yes.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put
That's
it in
profound.
the first place,
That's
the
right.
last place we look,
That's right.
the last answer we seek, or the solution that we're looking for is usually in the last place we
Within.
seek, right here.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah, that's profound.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I had a story similar to that, and it was about a thief who found this saint, was walking along the road and knew that the saint was bringing money to another town for the people there, and he decided that he was going to follow him and take the money. It's neat. So he went over to him and he says, "Do you mind if I travel with you? We're going the same way." And the saint said, "Sure, come. No problem." So they traveled together. They talked. They had a good time, and they stopped at this place to sleep for the night. And when the saint went down to eat, the thief was looking through his clothes, looking through his stuff. Where's the money? He doesn't wear anything. Where the hell did he put it? In the bag. He couldn't find it. So the next day they went on the road again, and he's scratching his head, saying, "Where the heck did he put this? And does he really have?" So he went through this whole thing, and they got to the next day. They got to the thing, and again he said, "I'm going to check." And he went and he searched and he searched. He looked under the mattress. He looked under everything. Couldn't find it. And the next day, they just about got to the destination, and the guy says to the saint, says, "Look, you beat me." He says, "I'm a thief, and I was trying to, take that money from you, and I couldn't find it. I looked under your pillow, under your mattress, in your clothes. You don't wear any clothes, Where did you put it?" He says, "I put it under your pillow."
That's great.
It's under your pillow, and that's the thing. We search everywhere for this gold, and it's not outside.
I have a favorite little story. It's sort of on the same lines, but it's really about how we view our lives, and to us, things are so much more worse than they really are, and we internalize this stuff. So this man cries out to God and says, "Lord, please remove this cross that I have to bear." He said, I'll even be willing to trade it. Did you know this one?
You shared it with me.
I'll even be willing to trade it for someone else's. And he said, absolutely. He said, go into that room. The room is huge. You're going to see thousands of crosses, all different sizes. He says, and you can pick any one you want, and we'll trade. He said, thank you, God. Goes in. Some of the crosses were 6 feet high. Some were touching the ceiling. Some were thousands of pounds. No. He finally sees, after 2 hours of searching, this tiny little cross sitting on the floor in the corner. He picks it up. He puts it in the palm of his hands. He goes, this is the one I need. Comes out and he says, Lord, this is the cross I want. And the Lord said, well, that's good because you chose your own.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, and that's what we do to ourselves.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right. That's
we
right.
project and we think everything is so much more worse. If we could just calm our brains and really think things through, we could figure out that there is a way out,
That's right.
and we can fix this.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
There's a samurai, Miyamoto Musashi, said, "There's nothing outside of yourself that can ever enable you to get better, stronger, or richer, quicker, or smarter.
Oh, I love that.
Everything is within. Everything exists. Seek nothing outside of yourself."
That's right. The force is with you.
Yeah, I mean, George Lucas got it right too. Tolkien got it right.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
You know, I mean, George Martin, Game of Thrones, it's the same thing. It's all the same. The story's always been the same.
It is all the same. You're right.
It's
it is all
always
the same.
been the same. And I don't know, like, we're just in a place, I believe that we don't need more stuff. I mean, go to Walmart or go to ShopRite, and there's 7,000 brands of Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Or there's like 100 Oreo flavors, which frustrates
All
the...
poison. Don't get me started, please.
Oh, I know. We're not going to get...
No,
we're not going to
please.
get a...
'Cause I would-
started on this.
We have to get
Right.
to you because we haven't.
All right. We
Yes.
will.
Develop.
Okay.
Get to her, because I'll
Why did
talk
you have to
forever.
bring up Oreos? Because
Because they're great,
they are poison. All
but
right.
they taste good.
He says to me, "Do you want something in the coffee shop?" He says, "Your what'd you say? Hippie,
Ice cream.
hippie voodoo stuff or
Yeah,
whatever
it's
you
like
said."
you want your like weird
Your
hippie...
chai hippie.
No hippie granola here or something, you know,
I
which
think
I'm
they
fine
have
with.
granola
They
there.
probably
Oh,
do, yeah. Which I'm fine with, but you need to put it on top of your Oreo flavored ice cream. Just saying.
Just saying. I could listen to you forever, Stephen.
Oh,
Because what really amazes me about you is that you did it. You know what
That's
I
right.
mean? That
That's
you
right.
did it. You came out of it and you did it. And you know what? You do deserve a medal. And I don't think you realize how much you do. Because if you just laid down and died, or if you just said, "I did it and I'm not going to help anyone else," then you don't deserve a medal. But you came out of it and you said, "You know what? I'm going to use this for good and I'm going to help all the people I can." And I'm sorry, but not everybody does that.
well, you know, it's funny. My ex-wife said to me recently, she goes, "Why don't you take your time and focus more on you instead of helping people?" And I just chuckled to myself because the irony is, the more I reach out and help others, the more it helps me.
There you
I
go.
knew what you was going to say.
It comes
That's-
back tenfold.
If you want more happy than your heart will give, just take whatever you have and give it away.
That's right.
So I have a really cute story today.
Okay.
I went to the bank, and I usually go through the drive-through, and it was saying that listen, I love God, and this is how God works in my life with crazy little silly things all the time. And my PIN didn't work, and I'm like, well, it's my PIN. So I go in, and I have to talk to someone, and I'm like, oh, they're saying my PIN's not working. And she's like, oh, try this, whatever. And I walk out, and I don't even know what made me walk back in. But I walked back in because I don't even know why, honestly. And this little elderly lady that was in there, she comes up to me smiling, laughing, and she goes, "What is this? What is this?" And she's pointing to my hat and my shirt. And she was probably at least 80, at least. And I said, "Oh," I said, "Do you like it?" And she goes, "I love it. I love it. Oh my God, that's so cute." And I said, "Well, I wrote this book, and this is the title of the book." And she's like, "I need to have your book. I need to have your book. That's so cute." And I said, "Okay." I said, "I don't know if I have one with me." I said, "But I can give you the title of it." And so I pull it up, and she goes, "But I have my phone. I have my phone. Can you show me? Can I order it? Can I order it?" When I opened up my bag to get my phone, I had a book in there. And I was like, when did I put this book in here? Crazy. And I said, "You know what? I have a book and it's yours. I have to pay you for this. I have to pay you for this." I said, "You know what? You already did."
That's right.
I said, "You already paid me for this. You made my day." And she said, "But you made mine, honey." And I said, "No, you made mine." And she said, "Can you sign it for me?" So I signed it.
You want that too? Jeez.
And
Sure.
I
Book it
and I
in.
got a hug from her, and she said, because you're so nice, I'm telling all my friends they have to buy your book, okay? I said, okay. It was the cutest thing,
that
and
sounds-
she made my day.
That's fantastic.
Wasn't that great?
That's
Great?
I love it. I
I
love
love
it.
stories like that.
So, okay, so me. So my book, everybody, I'm not an addict. I'm just an ass. I'd rather be a smart ass than a dumb ass. I have a different take on addiction. And in my book, I tell everyone that if you feel you need to go to meetings, then go. If you don't feel like you have a support system and they're your support system, then by all means, please go. But what I do tell people is you are not powerless. And I do not believe it is this disease that can't be cured. Everyone has a dis-ease. That's what it really is. I've talked to you guys about this before. And when we put too many drugs or alcohol into our body, it changes the chemical balance of our brain, hence the word disease. But the problem is when you're being told every single day by these programs that you have a disease and you are powerless and you will be an addict forever, that gives the addict zero hope. And the percentage of people getting better in these rooms is something ridiculous, like 7 or 8%. That should tell everyone out there they're doing something wrong. So my desire is to get the word out, to really try to help addicts, to let them know they are not powerless, and this so-called disease they have, they've created, which means they can cure. So, you know, proceeds from my book go to help people. It's only $10. I wish everybody out there would check it out.
But what's the path? What's the path to help themselves?
Okay, well, first
as
of
far
all,
as your book.
okay, first of all, the path to help yourself is, number one, acknowledging that you created this problem.
Okay.
Okay, because even, you know, people say all the time, well, the addict is not in a state of mind where they can think this way. Well, they sure are, because an addict can think 50 times better than any one of us sober when they need to get their next fix. They can figure out a way to get that drug.
That's
Okay,
great. That's good. Good
right?
point.
But it's
Very good
true.
point.
It's very true. So,
Yeah.
in their most horrendous state, their weakest state, physically, mentally, they can still figure out how to get that next drug. And they can figure out where their mom keeps her bag or where their mom locks the bag up. They know, believe me, I've dealt with so many addicts. And so they're not in a state of mind where they can't think that they can fix this.
Right.
Unfortunately, and I believe this, is that the majority of addicts who do not get better want to stay in that state because they feel like even if they got better, there's no up for them. There's no way for them to rise above the situation. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way you can rise above the situation. Because once you get sober enough where your mind starts to think differently, you can rise above any situation. You know, and that's the key. So, you know, the path that my book wants to take people on is first accepting responsibility for your addiction.
That's a big one.
It's
That
the
is
first
a big
one.
Right?
You know, once you can accept that, then there's a chance that you can now say to yourself, okay, I accept this responsibility. I chose this path. I'm going to recreate my steps. I'm going to choose another path.
Right.
So the other thing that I think it's important that they understand is this. They're being told in these rooms that they have to do it 100% for themselves, not for anyone else, or they can't do it. See, I disagree with that, and I'm going to tell you why. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have a child, because I didn't do it for me. I did it for my kid. So I don't believe for 1 minute that we're doing it for us. We are very selfish people. You have to say to yourself, who's more important than me at this moment? Because you're not the most important person if you want to kill yourself. When we're involved in drugs and alcohol, we're not important to ourselves. So if we could look past ourselves and say, who would I die for? It would be my child, my grandchildren, right? So they're the ones, if you have a child, you should look at and say, I need to get sober for them. Because if you can do that, you can stay sober. Because obviously, everything that's being taught isn't working. So I'm sorry, but I think we need to allow people to view addiction differently.
I agree. Yeah.
And they're not bad people.
No, but it is hard for someone to realize when they're in jail that in order to get out, they have to realize that they're in jail. And people in that addiction, they have to realize that they're there, and they have to want to get out.
They have to want to get out.
They have to have that desire. I mean, what do you think?
I agree a lot with what she said. I just think that even the labeling, because what you tell yourself is so powerful.
There you go.
Our subconscious minds are more, they will lead you where you go.
Right.
And if I tell myself I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, like, no, you're not. You're a person.
That's it.
You're a human.
Mm-hmm.
You're a father. You're a son. You're
Right.
a wife. You're a
mother.
friend, a mother, a cousin, or whatever. That's what you are.
Right.
Okay? That's what you are. You're someone who may have been addicted to something, but at this moment, you're not an addict. Like, that puts you in a box.
Right. You put yourself in that
you
box,
put
yeah.
yourself in, and you believe this crap that they tell you. And and I agree with Jerry. Like, if you got to go to meetings, go to meetings.
Yep.
Right.
But guess what? If that doesn't work for you, I don't want to hear it. I have a real problem when somebody says, "Well, if you don't do it that way, you're screwed." That's
terrible.
not true.
It's not true.
Because that's not what happened with me. And if you got to go square dancing on Tuesday night to have a better life, then freaking go square dancing. That's cool.
Right.
Whatever works for you.
Absolutely.
If 50 roads led you to the place of despair, you can't tell me there's just one way out. Now, I believe the one way is finding that internal peace, but there's a million ways to find that.
Right.
And I think a lot of it comes down to identity and finding your purpose, finding why, finding those things that when you were a kid that you wanted to do. You wanted to be a singer. I wanted to write. I wanted to speak. But I didn't think that I could be a writer because I wasn't getting paid millions of dollars to write books. But you know what? If I write, that makes me a writer. If I sing, that makes me a singer.
That's right. Exactly.
I don't have to measure. I don't have to shave my face in your mirror.
I tell that to Rob all the time. He says he's not a singer. I said, of course you are. Right, Rob?
But you're right. It's the man in the glass.
I'm so sorry. We ran out of time.
Nope, it's okay.
That's all right.
And,
This was
This
great.
has been great. Yeah.
Can I just share where people can find me real quick?
Yes.
I hope you do.
2 seconds.
Yep.
So,
Make it 4.
okay, 4. Rescue the Rescuer. Rescue the Rescuer. RescueTheRescuer.com, where you can find me on iTunes, Mental Health News Radio Network, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Hamilton Radio. You find me at any of those places.
Facebook? Did you say that?
Facebook,
Okay.
Instagram.
Right.
All them. Don't try my name. Just look up Rescue the Rescuer. Hashtag it. You'll find me. I'm
Beautiful.
There. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's cool.
Beautiful.
I hope you listen. I hope you reach out.
Oh.
Jerry.
Hey, everybody. I'm Geri Petito. I'm the author of I'm Not an Addict. I'm Just an Ass. I have 2 radio shows on Hamilton Radio. Tuesday night, The Geri Petito Show. I have a show on Thursday night called Girl Power. I have a health blog on Facebook. You can get me by my name. I'm also a nutritional health coach. And soon I will be having a show on PANJ Radio,
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. So
Awesome.
I'll keep you guys posted about that.
Okay.
Awesome.
And I'm Vinny V, and you have been in the green room, and this has been really beautiful.
It has.
And remember, people, peace is within, and that's where we have to go and search for that. That's search and you shall find. I've heard that somewhere
Yes.
before.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, guy. Thank you. Bye-bye. Peace to you.